Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Sneaky. I just finished going over this video. I actually had to just submit it today for school. An English assignment. We had to find someone in our local area, our community, who had a social media account, and we had to do like a rhetorical analysis on it, shit like that. But we also had to interview them, and now we have to write a personal piece. So I interviewed Loren Howard, I've known him since like sophomore year of high school, give or take. He's a musician for a band Chodis. He also does like short films. He's working on a feature-length film. He shouts out a movie he's got coming out. He submitted films to like festivals and shit. Really cool kid, great guy. Just mad chill overall, just good vibes. And he has like a few videos uploading same shit like we do. He plays Halo. I grew up playing Halo, absolutely love it. We don't really upload it because not many people that I record with and hang out with and shit play that. But obviously I just love the game, grew up playing it, so that's dope too. Be sure to check him out. I'll link his shit down bottom, and enjoy the interview.
This is Christian's homework we're doing here. I'm Loren Howard. I'm a local filmmaker, a musician, and a cable boy for a bunch of public access TV stations. Yeah, there you go.
All right. All right. So how did you get into music at first?
So I first started playing music when I was like 13. I had an older brother who was playing music. He started teaching me some guitar, and then he ended up passing away, but he had a lot of friends who were also playing music and kind of took me under their wing, so I started playing drums in a lot of bands. But yeah, we've always been a musical family, like not in terms of playing it. My dad and my mom are just they can't play anything, but they love music. My dad's always just been cranking records, always had speakers in the house, so musical in that regard. Have gone to a lot of shows with the family, but yeah, it started as sort of, you know, as it does with a lot of people, as like a fun little hobby to do, and still am not making money off of it. Still doing it seriously, but still would consider it like a hobby. So,
yeah. All right. How did you get into making like the short films and?
Oh, I got some in my eyeball here. Before I keep going. Yeah, so I got into short films. We talked a little bit off camera.
Yeah.
Top secret. But yeah, I was talking to Christian and I was mentioning I started filming skate videos with my friends. Really horrible, not good at skateboarding, 12-year-olds. You know, just for fun, and then learning how to edit that way. And then as I got into music, the natural progression was, let's make some music videos. So trying to write little stories for music videos that would be fun. And then I didn't really start taking filmmaking seriously until I was 17 or 18. We had just shot a bunch of like backyard wrestling stuff, which was really fun to do, sort of a satire of backyard wrestling. A lot of people just thought we were like thought we were tough guys, but it was kind of joking on ourselves, and a lot of people missed the idea that it was a satire of backyard wrestling, and we weren't just like, all right, I'm actually a badass who's going to hit you with a light bulb right now. And yeah, I was kind of pushed into going to college, or at least encouraged into going to college by guidance counselors, and never planned on going to college. Parents don't have money to pay for that shit. But the reason I started taking film seriously is because I applied for a few colleges, and some of them had film programs, and I knew if I was going to go to college and pay money and spend time doing something, it needed to be something I liked, and I didn't want it to be music, because I didn't want music to turn into a job immediately. I didn't want the thing I do for fun on weekends to become, oh god, I'm going to have to be classically trained and, you know, all this shit, and want to play in orchestras and stuff. So filmmaking was sort of practical, because I was like, oh, this is not only something I like, but also I feel like I could actually make some money off of. And yeah, and then once I got to film school, or once I started thinking about going to film school, senior year of high school, we started cranking out really bad horror movies. And that was the plan. We were like, what's the easiest genre? And this is a misconception, but like, what's the easiest genre? Oh, it's scary. Let's be scary. Let's do grotesque stuff.
Yeah.
So even the stories were horrible, but we're like, let's film something that we can do in a day, and it'll be 10 minutes long, and sort of like flash fire filmmaking. And so that was really helpful to learn of what not to do. And then getting to school, yeah, that really sort of started me seriously getting into making short films and being like, trying to submit them to festivals and play them and stuff. So.
Word. Where was the first place you played live at?
Technically my dad's basement. He did let us have a show, so that was fun. Shout out to Dan Howard. But the first real venue we played at was called the Main Street Museum in White River Junction. Awesome place. They have Elvis's kidney stones?
What?
I don't know if it's true. They've got a bunch of, like, it's a museum that, like, feels artificial. There's, like, a Connecticut River swamp monster, but it's very clearly a bunch of other, like, bones made into this bigger art piece. So I'm not sure if the Elvis's kidney stones are 1,000% legit, but there's a box that has little dried up organs in it that says Elvis's kidney stones. Yeah, and that place is awesome. We actually raised money for them to build a stage. Before I ever even was playing music, we made a little video to help them build a stage because I had C shows there. And then the stage we helped getting built was the first stage I ended up playing on. So, yeah, Main Street Museum is awesome. White River Junction, little tiny place in Vermont that people don't necessarily see as a artsy-fartsy town, but once you go down there, there's so much cool stuff happening in a 4-block span that you're like, why isn't it like this in other small towns? So yeah, shout out to the Main Street Museum.
Awesome. I guess that one was kind of already answered, but who or what was like your inspiration for like putting all your stuff out there and
Oh, sure.
and just getting into all of it, I guess?
So the one I referenced earlier is obviously my brother. He played music in a band called Dude Stew. Definitely go check that out. He made a lot of videos too, but then just in terms of like, you know, I feel like everybody has famous people influences, so we'll answer some of those. I think when I was really young, I was very into punk rock music. I feel like that's the easiest route for somebody who doesn't know how to play guitar. They're like, oh, these songs are 3 chords. Great, awesome, I can do that. And I think that that sort of started to skew into like, you know, the indie rock 90s alternative bands. Like, so yeah, there's too many bands I'd like to name. Some of them people wouldn't know, so I'll name ones maybe people would. Like Nirvana's a big one. The most generic one I can name. Yeah. I just love that Kurt was a dude who came from a small town in the middle of fucking nowhere, and as much as he hated it when he got there, his music got so popular and inspired so many people that, yeah, it just goes to show that in America you really can be from a small town and not have to just be like a New York City kid or like an LA kid to go somewhere. So Kurt Cobain's a huge influence. I really like the band Devo. I feel like everybody only knows that song, Whip It! Yeah. But Devo rules. They're really awesome. Ahead of their time, sort of weird punk music, but with like a strange sci-fi feel. And then, yeah, filmmaking inspirations. You know, I saw a Quentin Tarantino movie when I was 9, and I was like, wow, movies are awesome! So I love Quentin Tarantino like a lot of filmmakers do. Some of them actually hate him, so maybe I shouldn't throw everybody else under the bus. Yeah. I love Quentin Tarantino. I really like Wes Anderson. Again, God, I sound like such a film bro. And then I love David Lynch. David Lynch, he made the show Twin Peaks and a bunch of really weird movies that I don't think anybody knows, but I love David Lynch. So I feel like that's a good trio of filmmakers to give you that's going to be confusing for the audience. Yeah.
What are your future goals in all of this? Like
yeah.
Uploading everything to YouTube and...
Sure. So future goals... Right now, I have a film submitted to Kevin Smith's Film Festival in New Jersey in July. So we'll see what happens. That might be really cool to go to. Finally, at college, we've been shown how to submit to festivals and stuff. So as the future goes on, I plan to self-fund a lot of my own films. I already maxed out like 3 credit cards buying all the film equipment. So yeah, I plan to self-finance as many films as I can, try to submit them to festivals. This summer specifically, some friends and I are writing a skit show that we're going to call, this is copyrighted, we're going to call it TV Copyright TV. And hopefully that'll film all summer and we'll have like a quote-unquote 1 season to upload to YouTube this fall. We did a similar schedule with our wrestling stuff. We did a wrestling reboot of our high school wrestling series last summer and did a similar thing. Filmed over the summer, started releasing them through the fall. I have a few different screenplays I've written, like feature-length screenplays, but the hardest thing about a feature-length screenplay is you need a feature-length budget most of the time. But I'm optimistic, and after writing one screenplay that was very much like out of the realm of financial possibility, like I wrote things into it I know I could not ever do unless I had $10,000.
Yeah.
I'm now writing a screenplay that I'm only writing based around actors and locations I know I have. So it'll still be a feature length, but it'll be based on I know I can do this shit for free. I know these actors want to work for free until we can make money off of it.
Yeah, if you're not making it, then what do you
exactly?
If you have to do something.
I'll pay people. Like I will. Like especially like if somebody I know really wants to do sound, like I will pay them $15 an hour to come do sound. Like that'd be awesome. But that all being said, the cheapest film for me is going to be the easiest one to make right now because I have no real producers or any company behind me.
There's no like Jordan Peele on set.
Exactly. So the plan is write this feature length with the locations and characters in mind, and hopefully start shooting that next spring, and film an entire feature length, and then just have that to show. That'll probably be submitted to festivals too. I think there are different festivals for short films versus feature lengths, so I'll have to look into that and do some research. But yeah, self-finance and self-produce my own films until I get a little bit of attention, hopefully. And then, yeah, we're still playing music. Finally, after COVID, we played our first 3 shows back last fall. That was amazing. We played Key Music Festival, What Doth Life Festival, and just like some show in a college. Yeah. My buddy Trey's house, our buddy Trey's house, they've got a really cool basement where they've actually like really made it look awesome down there, so it's a real venue. Yeah, there's probably like 60 people there, and nobody got COVID, thank God. Yeah, so future music-wise, keep making music, keep recording, keep practicing, and I'm not going to stress about the money with music too much.
What's your dream place to perform, if you could go anywhere?
That one I might have to think about. I want to say something that's more realistic, but also it's a place I've seen a lot of really good shows. I really like the venue Higher Ground in Burlington. Oh, okay. Burlington's not a huge city or anything, but Higher Ground, I've seen some of the biggest artists that I've ever gone into their shows. Saw Watsky there, the Front Bottoms, MC Chris, just like a few miscellaneous other bands there, and it's the perfect venue for... they've got a small stage and a big stage, and it'd be great to play the big stage. Yeah. I've had a few friends who have worked with them before to do little live videos, but there weren't crowds there. During
COVID?
Yeah. So the next goal would be get my name on a list at Higher Ground of opening acts. So if Higher Ground has, artists will come in and be playing shows, and they want, do you have any local artists who want to play? If I can get on whatever list that is, so my band Chodas can play, that's ideal. So, Higher Ground in Burlington, Vermont, for sure.
What was the hardest obstacles for you? Like, whether it was music or filmmaking, just what was...
Yeah, I think, there's a mental obstacle constantly. And that's something that any artist, any person alive is going to have to deal with. Like, why am I doing this? That sort of... asking yourself, what am I doing this for? I think a big obstacle for me was like right out of high school, everybody is like forced into getting jobs. Yeah. And your hobbies become these things of the past, and you're like, fuck, I have to go get a job now. Wait, sorry, what was the question again?
Just like, what was the hardest obstacle?
Okay, yeah. So that was the big thing, is realizing that I need to make money doing this. Yeah. The things that I like to do, I need to make money doing them one way or another, and how do I get in the door of a place that's making stuff? Musically, or both of these, it's all about connecting with people, and that's a huge obstacle. If you're a shy person, if you're a person who doesn't go for that plate of cookies, it can be really hard to meet the right people and continue to get shows and continue to make connections in the film world.
But you never really seemed like that was...
It is hard, even for me. So I'm an outgoing person, so it's not hard per se. Like, on like a one-on-one level, if I'm talking to somebody, I can hold a conversation pretty well. Yeah. But it can be draining, because you get past that point of, all right, I feel like I'm getting good enough at networking, but then this weird parasocial level comes in where it's like, do these people like me? So this obstacle of like a mental block of like, you know, who can I trust? Who is sort of, you know, a financial or social gain versus like somebody who's actually working with me because they want to work with me. That's like a weird tug and pull.
So is it kind of like who's just seeing you as a check and who's seeing you as somebody they actually want to come and affiliate with?
Yeah, and sometimes it's not even a check because it's like, what the fuck am I worth?
Oh, sure,
but like stuff like you might know a band that this other band doesn't. So they'll come to you and be like, "What's up, man? Haven't talked to you in a while. So have you talked to Jimmy from X?" And so weird stuff like that can kind of pull you out of it and make you feel like less you're in a community and more like you're in a business. But yeah, like I said, with the other big obstacle is you have to start treating it like a job. And luckily, a year into college, I got my first job doing video work at a public access station. Public access stations, I always thought were fucking dead at this point.
Yeah.
But especially now, the one in Claremont's, we're doing a little better. But the one up in Hartford and White River Junction, where I work for CATV, we are doing so much different stuff than what public access was 10 years ago. We're doing live streaming, we're doing concerts. It's not just school boards, government meetings. I didn't want to get into public access at first because my whole perception of it was, oh, it's going to be some fucking boring ass job.
Just some shit that no one wants to watch.
Nobody's going to watch it. I'm not going to learn anything. Everything's 15 years old. We're using all this gear that's old. And so I was like, oh man, but you know, I'll try it. Maybe it'll be a good job. Maybe I won't have to go work at Bernie's, a gas station, or go work at the deli or whatever. So it felt really good. That obstacle to get over was getting that first job in video, and now I've scored 3 other jobs and an internship with Ken Burns Film Studio because I now have experience actually working in video.
That's awesome.
But yeah, getting that first foot in the door and networking are 2 huge obstacles that can just be painful in music and film.
Word. I guess you kind of answered the last 2, but favorite venue so far?
Favorite venue that I've played? It's weird. Sometimes venues will be cool, but like will suck.
Oh, okay.
So to be like, that venue was awesome, to like, there were so many people there, but like we sounded like shit. So it's like not my favorite show, but like favorite venue, favorite space. I'm gonna say Main Street Museum is probably a second, just because I already gave them a shout out earlier. They're just like so awesome. Yeah, and then first this is gonna be a conceited shout out. One of my favorite places to play is my drummer and I do a skate park show in Claremont annually whenever we can. Haven't been able to because of COVID the last 2 years, but that always feels like such a great culmination of what we've been trying to do around here. Literally, the Claremont skate park, they've just got a little gazebo. We go to the city, we ask, hey, like, can we rent this place for a day? We've got to get insurance and porta potties, and then we have free range of the skate park for an entire day. It's so cool. We as many people can come. We always have it for free. We try to have bands go from 12 to 8. And so it's not a venue per se. It's literally just the Claremont skate park, but that's where I have the most funds, at least locally. Cool venues, let me think of one that's like kind of out there maybe. There's a pretty cool spot in Concord called Area 23, which is just like a bar / music venue, and they had like pinball machines and like you could get food up until 2 a.m. and just like all this really cool stuff. They paid bands well. So top 3, Area 23, Main Street Museum, Claremont Skate Park.
And then what's your goals like with like YouTube specifically? Is that just to get your work out there and kind of like you said, like the networking aspect of it, or is that just something you do for fun, just to have like a record of what you've done?
So it's both. You saying that really made me be like, oh, it is a record. It truly is. You can go back on my YouTube and you can go back and find the stuff I was making when I was 12. Embarrassing? I'm leaving it there.
No, in my draft, I've referenced ones you made in like 2014.
Awesome. Yeah, and so that's, I like that people can see that. You see progress. I feel like a lot of people get embarrassed of their old stuff and will delete it. And more specific to film, I feel like that happens all the time. People will be like, oh, I hate my songs from 5 years ago. Oh, I hate them too. I hate those songs. Oh, God, I hate them. Hearing me sing them, watching me play them, I'm like, ugh. But I leave them there because it's sort of, you can see the trajectory of, oh, okay, maybe this sucks, but what's the next one look like? Oh, okay, he sings it differently, or the album sounds different. But YouTube has always fascinated me because it was literally like, you know, you're watching TV as a kid and then suddenly there's a place where other people can just put shit. It's not like you have to watch America's Funniest Home Videos anymore to see all this wacky stuff at home. You know, 2006, 2007, you're now this child surfing on the internet, or at least I was.
Yeah.
And I'm just seeing anybody put up funny videos, like skate videos, music videos, all that stuff was just suddenly there. It was free and anybody could post it. And I was like, well, I'm going to post some shit. Like, I got to post stuff. And so, meanwhile, my dad's submitting tapes to public access still at this time. I was like, what is this YouTube stuff? And so right now, it's not like, there's no way I'm going to make money. I think I've probably got like 100 copyright strikes. I've gotten better at that as years go on, like doing original music for films and stuff like that. But especially old videos or wrestling videos, we're using copyrighted music, so we'll never be able to monetize it. So YouTube is in no way like a monetary gain for me.
Yeah.
It is a place where you can meet anyone in public who has a cell phone. You can go, yo, dude, I'll send you a link right now. And they've got it. It's not like you've got to be like, oh, you got to go on the MTV website, or, oh, hey, if you go on my Instagram and, like, watch my stories, you'll see it. Or if you, like, go on my Facebook and then go to the link, you'll find my Vimeo, and behind this password on Vimeo, you'll find the film. Like, I want as little roadblocks between people, but between, like, what... I was going to try to make a cool metaphor there. I want there to be, like, nothing in between a person trying to listen to my music or watch my films. Okay. I don't want there to be a monetary wall. I don't want there to be, like, a million links they have to click through. I want my shit to be as easily accessible to whoever wants to find it as possible, because if you tell somebody to check out your music and they Google it and it doesn't immediately pop up,
they
forget about it. Yeah. Like, they forget about it.
No one's
like,
looking on Google for longer than like 6 minutes.
Exactly. So if you can, you know, make sure you have enough of a presence, like, on there. I don't really use Instagram and Facebook too much, which I feel comes to my advantage. Facebook, I'll use memes and stuff. Yeah. But when few and far between is when I will post about films and music. And I think that helps the algorithm. I feel like some people are every day, they're like, it'll help the algorithm. Let me just put 19 of the same fucking link in. It thinks you're spam at some point, so it stops. So rather than like putting links or paying for boosted posts, I'll write a status that's only words. No links, no nothing, because that'll show up in more people's timelines. And I'll do that like once every couple of months.
Yeah.
And that will pop up in more people's shit and lead them to find stuff. Instagram, I hate. You can't put links on Instagram. The only place you can put a link is in your bio.
Which makes no sense.
Yeah, so you always have to decide, like, at least for me, I was like, am I going to put the Bandcamp link for my music, or the YouTube where, like, there's films and music, or one film I really want them to see? It was like, God damn it, why do I have to think about any of this?
Yeah, that's what we were into with our Instagram for NEKD. We were like, well, what the fuck?
Where do I put... Yeah.
Nothing we can't put, like, everybody has to go to you to find it, but if they don't go to you, they're never going to...
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, so YouTube is just a cool place for people to find shit. We've got like 408 subscribers, which to me I still feel is like puny, but I have friends at college who are like, you've got 408 subscribers?
Yeah, that's still like...
And I'm like, is that a lot? Like, I've had this account for a decade, so I don't know. Yeah. Like, I've literally gotten, you know, if we do the math on that, 40 a year.
Yeah. It's crazy to think, because we went to a high school of 400 kids.
Yeah.
So think about it, you essentially have a high school population
That's true.
subscribers. Like,
who sees my stuff when I post.
You are Dr. Barry.
and one thing I'll finish on with the YouTube that really helped was that Cowboy movie I made called The Last American Cowboy.
I was going to ask you about that.
That was my first video to break 1,000 views in 24 hours. So that was cool. That was like, it shot up. I had done enough like talking about it that when it came out, people wanted to see it. So in a day, it had been watched 1,000 times. So that was really cool.
Yeah, I've seen mad people share it on Facebook too after you posted it.
And then the flip side of that is I made the wrestling series last summer. Nobody watched it. We put so much effort into it, and nobody watched it. But it was more of a fun thing to do. We knew there was a storyline we didn't finish from the wrestling stuff we did in high school. And it always felt like we needed to go back to it. And so having good cameras, having a whole crew was really fun to revisit it, even if we're the only people who ever watched it. And the funniest part about that is, like, we did 7 episodes of the wrestling, Episode 0, which is like a prequel episode, basically. There's no
Okay.
wrestling. It's just like background stuff. That had like 400 views. And then every video forward has like increasingly less. So it goes from like 400 to like 300 to 250 to 200 to 100 to like 70 to 50.
Yeah.
So it's just this like ridiculous, like, something must have happened in episode 2 where they're like, get rid of it. But yeah, so, and then you'll find like, you can have some weird connections on YouTube. I've had some fun other small channels I've met of people who live in Canada and stuff who are now my Facebook friends who I'll chat to every so often about their like bands and films and stuff, only because my stuff just happened to show up in their YouTube feed.
Yeah.
So that stuff's kind of cool, but I wish YouTube was a little bit better at feeding more unknown stuff out like they used to, rather than like, here's a fucking Logan Paul video.
Yeah, something that already has like 2 million views.
Exactly. Here's what everybody else is seeing on their first YouTube page.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And what was what gave you the idea for The Last American Cowboy? Because that was the first like long thing you made, right?
So that one's 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Hold on. So you asked about the idea of it, right? You asked where it came from.
Yeah, like.
And I want to answer, I'll come back to that, but I want to talk about the 45-minute length real quick. I have a theory. So, do you know the Goldilocks story? Goldilocks goes in, the porridge is too hot, the porridge is too cold, then there's one that's just right. They use that in space when they talk about planets that are in habitable zones. They say, oh, Earth is in the Goldilocks zone of the Milky Way.
Yeah.
It's just in the middle, not too close, not too far. If we reverse this theory and apply it to film, I think Cowboy is in the anti-Goldilocks zone. So that means it's the worst length it could possibly be for a film. Because I think people either want to sit down and watch a 2-hour movie, or they want to watch something that's a half hour or shorter. They want to watch a TV show, a short film, whatever. Nobody wants to, unless, you know, it's an hour-long show, nobody's choosing a 45-minute short film.
Yeah.
It's just an awkward length. And I'm glad it was that long, because like you said, it was the longest thing I've done. But it's just such a painful, like, as I say, anti-Goldilocks zone. This weird, like, you see a 45-minute timestamp and you're like, that's not enough to be a real movie, and that's not enough to just be a short little video I'm watching.
Yeah.
Do I want to spend the time on that?
Am I gonna get invested? Like, I invest my time into this, like...
Exactly. I'm ignoring this. Yeah, I ignore calls. But the idea came from multiple of us. Can I shout them all out? If I can remember all their names. Jeffrey Wood, Hunter Slattery, Darwin Marsh, Jacob Ford, and Edward Furland, and myself. In high school, we had an idea for like a satirical cowboy movie about a cowboy who is trying to be a cowboy in modern day.
Yeah.
And basically that's all we had. We had like this funny, like, oh, he's going to try to be like a macho guy and everything's going to go wrong for him. There's a lot of stuff we didn't have. So that sat on the back burner for the first 2 years at college, just kind of thinking about it, rewriting it, making outlines, talking to the actors, being like, are you still involved? Are you still not involved?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the story was going to be completely different. It was going to be the main character similarly goes west, few scenes happen pretty similar, and then I think it was going to be like, he met anarchists in the woods who taught him how to be a cowboy better than he could be a cowboy, even though they were like the opposite of what a cowboy was supposed to be. And then at the end of it, I think his ultimate goal was going to be that he wanted to fuck the mayor. Complete non sequitur. Complete non sequitur. We were like, that's awesome, that's hilarious. He's gonna fuck the mayor, it'll be really funny. And then our main actor, Hunter Slattery, he was living in Boston going to college, and I wanted to start the film. I had written like half of a script, and I reached out to another friend of mine, Edward, and I said, Eddie, do you want to play the main character in this film? And he was like, absolutely yes. I reached back out to Hunter and said, Hunter, are you okay if we recast you because you're at college? And he was like, fuck you, no. He was like, you're not recasting me. He's like, I'm the cowboy, dude. And I was like, all right, cool. But at that point, I had already told Eddie, you can be a cowboy in my movie. So now I'm in the predicament of, oh shit, I have 2 guys who need to play cowboys in my movie. What do I do? I go to Eddie and I'm like, what do you want your cowboy to be? You have to be a different cowboy. You're not the main character anymore. And Eddie was fine with it. But Eddie gave me this. He said, I want to be a cowboy comedian who stands in a cardboard box, who has tomatoes next to him so you can throw them at me when my jokes are bad. And I was like, what the fuck does... I was like, I don't know what that is, but like, I love it. Like, sure. So that literally became a huge part of it. That his character, you know, if there's a tomato bit, he's trying to tell stand-up comedy on the side of the street, like, and the two cowboys meet. And then ultimately, I think it always was the plot, like, the main character was the son of the Marlboro Man.
Yeah.
And so I just had to figure out, how am I going to make these two cowboys both relate back to the weird Oedipus type father situation, you know? And it worked out pretty okay. There's lots of things in that movie I would have done differently. Some of the acting is really bad. But it's funny, you know, it's not supposed to be taken super seriously.
No.
So yeah, there were so many inspirations for that, but it ultimately came down to the reason there's two cowboys is because I accidentally casted two cowboys, and neither of them wanted to back out. They were like, "There's going to be two of us now." And I was like, "All right, well, looks like we're in the movie that way."
You're stuck with two cowboys.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, what gave you the idea for, well, the video on your thing is working, but what gave you the idea for the documentary Working? Because I thought it was
cool.
I thought it was interesting because it's also during COVID when a lot of people weren't working, and I even mentioned it in my draft how it's still kind of like, with all your other shit being like goofy, silly, and satirical, that was still like a serious, well, sort of serious idea, like a serious basis behind it. Obviously the behind the scenes Working was funny, like your dad like playing with the camera and you're giving like that like serious like talk in the beginning, like, oh, when you're in front of a camera, like you don't know what to do. And,
yeah. Well, so that came from, I took a meta cinema class. Ooh. And I didn't want to write a paper. It was make a film or write a 15-page paper, and I was like, well, I am making a film. And you know, meta cinema is the idea of cinema about cinema. People, you know, we talk about the fourth wall. That's the easiest example.
Yeah.
I didn't really even get the fourth wall until you think about it physically. If you're looking into a TV, and that TV was a 3D cube, and the characters look at the camera lens, and they're breaking the fourth wall, where you would be is literally their fourth wall in their 3 dimensions.
Oh, okay.
So that's what breaking the fourth wall is.
So it's like Rick and Morty when they always turn to the camera and say, like, something.
Yeah, or just trying to be, I don't know if you've ever seen Community.
Yeah.
Abed's character is always being meta.
Oh, okay.
Be like, Abed, like, stop being meta, like, and he'll always, like, almost acknowledge that they're on a TV show, but the rest of the character's like, you're crazy. Like, what are you talking about? But he's, like, above, meta, I think, is some fucking Greek term to just mean outside of.
Oh, okay.
Metaphor, I think for is another Greek term for, like, some other shit, don't quote me on this. But you're basically saying outside of the physical attachment. Metaphor. Okay. You're making a metaphor for something. So rather than saying it's a literal, you know, that plane is a literal plane, you're going, it flies like a bird.
Yeah.
Not a bird, but it's detached from the actual thing, but it still relates to it. So in meta cinema, it was, again, just filmmaking about filmmaking. So I wanted to do Working because I shot a bunch of footage for a longer documentary called Working. I shot that clip. The one scene we see in Working is just one of like 5 scenes that I'm working on a longer documentary for.
When you're all sitting in that living room or whatever?
Yes. Yeah. So, that's a conversation with just some pals and my dad, and then some of the other people I interviewed for the longer documentary, which will be called Working. I interviewed these guys who run a hot dog stand. I was getting pulled pork there every day for lunch. Don't even know their names. I know their names on tape. I don't know, like, I couldn't tell you them right now. Yeah. I have it. But I got their permission to film them. Then I have my friend who's a trans woman who's a self-described butch dyke. And she's awesome, and she had just quit her job as, like, a chef because she found out she was getting paid $5 less than the other chef who just got hired.
Oh, wow.
And so it was really cool to hear that story from her, and then I filmed it secretly, covertly. I went to a lighting workshop on campus where this guy who had worked on this film called Coda, which actually just won an Oscar.
Oh, wow.
He's a Keene State alumni. Coda means child of deaf adults. So it's a child who's not deaf who has deaf adult parents. There's this film called that and follows that same sort of premise. I haven't actually seen it. He did lighting on that film, and he did a lighting workshop on campus. So I brought like 2 cameras in and a sound recorder device, and I covertly recorded his lighting workshop because I thought that was a cool, like, he doesn't know that the camera's seeing him, but he's working. He's working to show us how to work. Kind of this, I was trying to find multiple layers of working, like going to a lighting workshop. Like, I just thought that was kind of weird. Talking to these guys who run the stand. Yeah, and then the one you referenced, Working on Working, it's very meta. I'm doing stuff where, like, I'm showing one camera, and then I cut, and you see the camera that was filming. Like, doing a lot of weird stuff like that. And I think that was more... It's definitely experimental. Like, I don't think it's awesome narratively. There's some cool stuff that happens in it. But yeah, it was more of an exercise in, like, how can I subvert people's expectations of what a film's going to be? Oh, okay, I'll set up a camera here. Or, like, I tried to do that funny thing where I had shown a cut of the film in class, and then I took these really poor notes. And then on camera, I read the notes out loud, even though I didn't know what they meant. And then I showed that to class. So the class who I wrote notes about had to then see that footage and be like, this was not in the film before. So just like that was a really fun one. And I think the only thing similar to Working on Working that I've done is I've got, is it 3? I have 3 other shorts called An Evening with ... They're all different. One's called An Evening with Darwin Marsh and Edward Furland, and it's just literally chaos for 10 minutes in a bedroom with these guys who we talk to. Another one's called An Evening with Evelyn Accardi and Dan Howard, my dad and my friend Evelyn, and again, just filming them sort of in their natural space, just talking and having fun.
Like a candid type?
Yeah, candid, lots of cuts, but like very much like you're in the room with them. And then the third one is An Evening with Loren Howard and Loren Howard.
I was going to ask you, just for my own closure, I was like, is that someone you're related to? Or
yes.
Is that, okay, I was going to say...
So that's my grandfather.
Alright, because when I watched it, I was like, I don't know if you guys are related or not. And I was like, but what are the odds he finds someone with his same name who's like well older than him too? Like, I was like, what are the odds he stumbles upon him? And it's just like, the guy was just openly like, yeah, come film my art in my house and talk to me. Like, I was like, what are the odds? Like,
that would have been sick. But yeah, so that's my grandpa. He's the man. He makes art every day. He's another huge inspiration I should have talked about. Never made music, never made films. He was actually an art teacher at like a bad boys school, like one of those like schools you go to when you bring a baby gun to school or something. And yeah, so he literally taught art at one of those schools forever. He was also a football coach, which is such a weird dichotomy. He started as when he played football in high school, was into art but never tried it professionally. Then went and into the Navy for like 4 years, so he could like pay for college and shit after, basically, like with the GI Bill. But I shit you not, this is gonna sound like the most made up thing I'm gonna say on this whole thing. He was a fucking like a jester. He would swing on like acrobatic rings for entertainment for the guys on the fucking boat.
What the fuck?
Like, I don't even know how to explain that. And maybe I'm like, it's a bad game of telephone, and I'm hearing like the story 3 generations distorted. But it was like his purpose on the boat was sort of like, you know, he went through basic training and stuff, but then just for 4 years was on the fucking thing entertaining. Just like fucking doing weird shit. And he got out, and then as soon as he got to college, started taking art classes, started taking teaching classes, and then by the time he was in his 30s, started being a football coach, doing art all the time. He does awesome stuff like landscape paintings, which are hyper-realistic, and then batshit wild abstracts that are like splatter paint Jackson Pollock type stuff. And he was doing it when Jackson Pollock was doing it, you know.
Wow.
Homie he's 90 years old. He turned 90 in March.
Wow.
Still somehow there. His brain's still functioning. But yeah, so that's a little fun one. Evening with Loren Howard.
Yeah. No, that one just like intrigued me, and I was like, what the hell? And I was like, fuck, I gotta watch that. But he still had like his same, like his first painting or whatever the hell.
Yeah, of the washer. The
laundromat.
The laundromat. Yeah. Funnily enough, the next film I'm working on is called Hitchin'. It comes out April 30th of 2022, whenever you're watching this. If it's in the future, it's already out! And that film starts and ends at a laundromat because I was inspired by that painting. I saw that painting and I was like, I should really do something at a laundromat. So I made this hitchhiking film where a character is sort of... they're an unreliable narrator who's like stealing out of cars for change to like wash their clothes. And then as they're hitchhiking... they're lying to the person who gives them a ride based on what they think that person wants to hear. So for one person, they're like, I'm a college student. For another person, they're like, I'm a high school dropout. Like, so yeah, just had to bring that up.
Right, yeah. All right, that's all I have.
Cool. Right, yes, thank you for watching Christian's homework. Yeah, cool. It's like stopping your cold toe.
constructing new metaphors, 'cause it's all been done before. So that's why you play the chorus.